Welcome back to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Chakras, and today I'm going to be continuing my series of reviewing modern stage pianos, and I'm going to be continuing it with this entry to the list, which is the Nord Stage 3. Now, Nord keyboards, as a general rule, are rather hard to find, at least in my area, but I have gone to a couple of places and I have found them, and when I found one that didn't have missing knobs, it was a lot of fun to play. I really enjoyed messing around with it. They have a lot of cool sounds. The Stage 3 is going to be my first entry into like the synth world, because it does have an entire section of the keyboard dedicated to synths, and you can change oscillators and all stuff, so that'll be a whole new thing for me to learn about. But it's also got lots of cool piano sounds, other keyboard sounds, organ sounds, and many other cool samples that are available on Nord's library online. You can download sounds to the keyboard and play them and swap them out. It's really, really cool. And so today I'm going to be unboxing and giving a mini review of the Nord Stage 3. In case you can't tell, I'm kind of excited about it. I've heard lots of great things about these keyboards, and I have enjoyed playing them in the stores. There is a bit of a learning curve when it comes to the user interface, but I do think that once you get used to it, it would be rather intuitive, and so I am very excited because I think this might open up a few more opportunities of interesting, unique sounds that I can use in my music, whether it be covers or original songs. So let's get started with opening up this box, but one thing that's kind of unusual about it is that the box is a bit of a different design than most of the other keyboard boxes I've reviewed. I've unboxed a Yamaha CP88 and a Kawai MP11 SE, as well as an RD2000, and all of those had relatively normal boxes with the two flaps on top that you open up, then there's the two smaller ones on the side, and then you access the keyboard. The RD2000 opened up on the end, but it was otherwise the normal box design. This one is a bit different. This one has what appears to be two flaps on either side of the box that are held on with tape and staples, and then from there, once you remove the staples, they lift up and then something else will happen with the box. I'm not exactly sure how this box design is going to work, but it is interesting, and I will figure it out on off camera most likely. Because the next thing I have to do now is remove these staples. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here, one on the end. Actually, I think there's two on the end there. There are a lot of staples in this box. Yamaha, I think, in their CP88 had 5 staples. This one, I think, probably has maybe double that. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 on one side, probably 7 on the other side. So yeah, over double that. So let me get all these huge staples out of the box, and then let me see how it opens up, and I'll come right back to you. So I've got all the staples out, and I was a little bit wrong with the way that the box works. I thought that this would be the top of it, and then you'd undo both sides, and it would lift off and unfold in some strange way. But actually, you only need to do one side. And I should have undone the other side because now the Nord logo here is upside down, but I'm sorry about that. So now we can open this up and take a look at the inside of this box and see how the Nord Stage 3 was packaged. One interesting thing I do want to mention, though, about the Nord, if you didn't know this, their products are actually made in Sweden, which is very different from all of the other keyboards that I've reviewed so far. Many of those are made in various Asian countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, places like that, and the build quality on those and the feel of them doesn't really seem to be all that poor, to be honest with you, but this is made in Sweden, so that is an interesting thing to note. And that is part of the reason why Nord keyboards are much more expensive than many of the other brands of keyboards out there. So inside of here, of course, we have the Stage 3, but one thing I'm noticing that's kind of interesting is that most of the other manufacturers I've reviewed, the way they protect their keyboards is they have some sort of foam paper over the keyboard, and then over that they have 2 large foam blocks to protect the ends, and then they have 2 middle supports in the center. However, Nord only has 1 middle support, and it's kind of off center, so I'm not sure if it's only supposed to be 1 middle support in the center or if there's supposed to be 2 and one of them just didn't get put in. But either way, that is very interesting because what that does is it leaves a pretty large portion of the box relatively unprotected. There's a lot of empty space in here between the keyboard and the box. And so theoretically, if something horrible were to happen during shipping and some bricks or something fell on the box, then it would potentially crush into the box and damage the keyboard. And especially if it was on the other side where all the knobs are, that could go badly. However, as you can see, this box is in generally very good condition. There is one poke hole on it somewhere back here, but it's not as bad of a condition as some of the boxes that I have received. So in this bag here, we have the power cable, we have a USB cable, we've got some owner's manuals, and we also have two CD things that say Nord Piano Library and Nord Sample Library. So these must be extra sounds that you can put into the keyboard. I do believe that the sample library is available online though as well. And on the sample library box, I see, I think, what looks like a mellotron, which is kind of cool. That's a keyboard instrument everyone wants me to review, and I don't know where you can find mellotrons, guys, but I'd love to review one. This is just a foam spacer, like the end protecting thing, so there's nothing else in the main section of the box, which means that there is, unless it's in this compartment, which I'm not seeing it, this here is a cover, I assume, for the keyboard, so that's cool. But the thing that I'm not seeing in here, unfortunately, would be a music desk. Now, I do see on the back of the keyboard what look to be two spots where you can install a music desk, but unfortunately, it seems to be a new trend these days, and maybe it's been going on for a long time, I don't really know, but it seems to be a new trend these days in the keyboard business to not include a music stand with your keyboards. This is the third keyboard now that I've reviewed that didn't come with a music stand. This here is the pedal unit, and it comes in this weird box that comes completely apart. I don't know why that is. But this is a pedal unit. It seems to be a bit lighter and a little bit cheaper than some of the other ones I have reviewed, but it does come with a little plastic protector as well as a big rubbery, sticky Nord badge. So that's the pedal unit. I'll talk a bit more about that probably in, maybe later in this video, but also probably a bit more in the in-depth review that I do on this keyboard. So I think that that's everything in the box except for the keyboard, so let me get that out and show you guys what it looks like and how it sounds later on in this video. And one other thing I do want to mention is that they used a plastic bag to wrap the keyboard rather than that foam paper that many of the other manufacturers use. Not a huge deal, just an interesting thing to notice. So let's get this out of the box and show you guys what it looks like and how it sounds. So now I have the Nord Stage 3 completely out of the box, and I wanted to give you guys a few small observations that I made immediately upon unboxing the instrument and checking it out. The first one I wanted to mention is that the materials used for the pitch bend as well as the mod wheel are surprisingly high. The pitch bend is actually made of wood, and it has a very unusual shape that Nord likes to use. It has a very springy feel, which I think people like because they can do manual vibrato, and then the mod wheel is actually made of metal. I always thought it was made of plastic, and it kind of has a glittery, plasticky look, but actually it's made of metal, which is very nice. I don't know of anyone else who has a full wheel like this made of metal, but there could be somebody else. Also, the side panels here and here are made of wood. The top, as well as the front and the bottom of the keyboard, are also made of metal. So the build quality of the instrument is very high, but they've also managed to keep the weight relatively low. Some other keyboards have a very high build quality, but also a very high weight. This one has a pretty low weight, and it's very easy to move around. A couple other things I wanted to mention are that the cover here is a bit interesting. It says Nord on it. It's their traditional red color, although it's a bit darker than the usual red. And if we put it on here, I'll just show you guys what it looks like really briefly here. Now, it is kind of nice that it came with a cover, and I probably will use this cover because it is there. But I personally would have preferred to have a music desk as opposed to a cover on an instrument. The cover is nice, and it will help keep dust off of it and probably keep a few people from messing around with it if they're not supposed to be, but I personally would have rather had a music desk than a cover. I don't know, that's just me, but the cover is nice, it is there, and it is an interesting feature. None of the other keyboards I've reviewed came with a keyboard cover. So let me fold this thing back up, because it's kind of nice that it's all folded up nice and stuff like that. And let me discuss one more interesting thing that will be a bit of a plug for upcoming videos. In this little CD, they call them DVDs. I don't know if these are videos or if these are sound files. So I thought they were sound files, but they're labeled DVD 1 and DVD 2, so they might be videos. But regardless, on the thing, which advertises the Nord Piano Library, original sounds for free, it has an image of a 1970s era Fender Rhodes suitcase model, like the one I have sitting over here. The knobs and the inputs looks exactly the same as mine. And down a couple of ways, we also have a Wurlitzer, and it appears to be a 200, could be a 200A, but I actually happen to have a Wurlitzer 200 in my studio as well. So at some point in the future, I'm going to be doing a video comparing all of the vintage instrument sounds in this instrument to the real deal, to the real versions of those that I have here in the studio. I don't have every single vintage equipment. They do have a picture of a Hohner clavinet, and unfortunately I don't have one of those. But I will be comparing this to all of the vintage equipment that I do have: Vox Continental organ, Hammond B3, the Fender Rhodes, the Wurlitzer 200, and anything else that I think of. So let me get the instrument powered up. Let me give you guys a quick little demonstration of it, and I hope that you guys enjoy hearing some of the sounds of the Nord Stage 3. So that is the sound of the default piano on the Nord Stage 3, the Royal Grand 3D. Now, a few things I'm noticing about this is one of them is that the sympathetic resonance sound is very, very prominent. You can really hear it in the high treble. That's part of the reason why I play Debussy, also because people seem to enjoy it. But that's part of the reason why I play Debussy, because you can really hear that up in the high treble. In the full review, when I play my test piece, you'll also be able to hear the high treble as well being featured in that. They're very, very resonant, and I think Nord took a long time making that sound right. I think it might be a little bit too powerful, but some pianos do have an extremely powerful sympathetic resonance, and so that would kind of be the piano that this would be imitating. Now, one thing that I'm personally kind of curious about is what pianos did they sample here, and are the names kind of hinting towards the manufacturer of that piano? For example, the first one is Royal Grand, which really doesn't describe all that much, but the second one down is Grand Imperial, so you'd assume that that would be an Imperial Bosendorfer. The one below that says Grand Lady D, and so you'd have to assume that that would be a Steinway D, perhaps? Steinway D, Lady D, that would make sense. And the one below that is Italian Grand, so you'd have to assume that that would most likely be a Fazioli of some sort. So I'm kind of curious if those names actually are hinting towards the manufacturer of piano that they're sampling, or perhaps they just gave random cutesy artsy names to the pianos. But either way, that's the sound of the Royal Grand. If I have to assign a manufacturer to each sample, I'd have to say that the Royal Grand actually reminds me a little bit of Blüthner's, actually. Part of that is because of that really powerful sympathetic resonance that many Blüthners will have because of the extra strings in the treble, and also just the warm, rich kind of mid-range that's going on down here reminds me of a Blüthner. However, the bass on it is a little bit weak. It does sound like a smaller piano, so maybe it's like they sampled a 7-foot-ish piano, maybe 6'8" or something like that. But that is the sound of the default Royal Grand 3D on the Nord Stage 3. Now, this does have many, many other keyboard sounds. We've got upright pianos, electric pianos, clavinets, other digital pianos, as well as Hammond organs, simulations, and many other cool sounds, as well as a bunch of synth stuff. So in my full in-depth review, I'm going to be going through a number of those. I'm going to be showing you guys the B3 sounds, some of the Rhodes and Whirly sounds, and some of my favorite selections of the synth side as well. There's also a large built-in sample library that has many samples of things like mellotrons and vibraphones and brass instruments and things like that. So that is also in here as well, and you can layer all those and pile them on top of each other and do really cool stuff with it. So if you're interested in seeing a bit more about the Nord Stage 3 and learning a bit more, you might want to go check out my full review that I did on it. And if you're looking at keyboards in general, you might enjoy this new keyboard review series that I'm doing where I unbox and review in depth many of the top brand keyboards that you can buy on the market today. So if you want to, you might want to go check all that out. If you want, you might want to think about subscribing, and if you do subscribe, make sure to hit the notification bell to be informed of all of my future uploads, including many keyboard related things. I'm going to be comparing all of these top brand keyboards, or at least many of them, to each other, as well as to the vintage equipment that they attempt to replicate. So if that sounds cool, you might want to think about hitting the notification bell and subscribing to be informed of all of that. And if you do that, thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you do that, thank you very much. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.